Hey there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you this week for your weekly meditation, 10-minute meditation practice. And this week's is actually a little bit of a continuation of last week. Last week, if you recall, we did that noticing and hopefully lengthening the spaces between our thoughts. And there was a component to it that really lingered for me, which is this idea of sometimes it feels as though during practice that it's just nothing but nonstop thoughts, or at least I have that experience quite a bit, and I would imagine, it's something that comes up for just about everybody. So I wanted to just revisit the idea of remembering that you kind of can't do it wrong. And I find that this is very helpful because if you are someone who's committed to this and you've noticed the difference that it's made in your life and all of that kind of thing, you know that it really does make a difference and it does have an impact. And in spite of the fact that you're probably having these experiences where it feels like the whole time you're just thinking, you're still doing it, which is amazing and impressive, and keep up the good work. So kudos to you in that regard. And for those of you who do have that level of commitment, who are, here listening in this moment, it's also good to remember that even if it does have all of the challenges that it has, that you kind of can't do it wrong. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating those particular sits or practices where you really felt super present and all of that. That's the best and really a wonderful thing. And it's also important to know that between those awesome, more ideal sits, there's just going to be a lot of just sitting and thinking and doing the best that you can to bring your attention back. So sometimes it may feel like, God, am I even doing this right? I mean, I know I'm benefiting because I've seen the difference. However, really, is this really what it's like? And actually, yes, that's really what it's like. And it's funny because I've heard a few people describe what this is like. One person in particular, Dan Harris, not to be confused with Sam Harris, both of them in the mindfulness world. Dan Harris talks about how meditation is basically trying, failing, and trying again, and failing, and trying again, and failing, and trying again, and failing. And the failing, of course, is being able to maintain that presence, to be able to maintain that mindful awareness of the moment, because it is really hard to do that. Now, do we theoretically get better at it as we continue to practice? Yes, and we would all probably benefit from doing longer sits than just 10 minutes, and I challenge myself to do that whenever I can. But sometimes 10 minutes is all you got if you want to be consistent, and so that's what we're working with, and accepting the fact that yes, while it seems as though it's just thinking so much of the time, you are still doing it right and you can't do it wrong. So these are the words of encouragement that I'm going to try to bring to our practice today, and hopefully you can embrace that the fact that this is really just a part of the journey, I guess you could say. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll get my timer up and running. And of course, as you're getting ready to settle in, go ahead and find your seat. Settling into the cushion, chair, floor, bed, whatever it is that you are resting on in this moment, and feeling the support of that surface beneath you. If you haven't already, go ahead and close your eyes or lower your gaze. And as always, feeling free to take a few deep belly breaths. Allowing ourselves to relax. So when we do experience sometimes those sits where it feels like nothing but nonstop thinking, those deep breaths can help us relax into the practice, to surrender to what is happening in this moment, and yet to stay with it, which is what we do when we sit. If last week you enjoyed this idea of playing with being on the lookout for when your thoughts arise, feel free to continue to do that again. Grounding yourself in the present moment by either resting your attention on the breath or on physical sensations or on listening to sounds inside the room and outside the room. Those are your anchors, the breath, body, or sound that will keep you tethered to what's really happening. And it's something you can come back to when your mind inevitably wanders and you get caught up in those plans, thoughts, ideas, memories, whatever might be coming up next to sweep you away. And sometimes it feels like undermining your progress with maintaining your presence in this moment. But remember that every time you've allowed yourself to be swept away, which really isn't even a conscious choice, it just happens. Remembering that noticing, that waking up from the thought is how we strengthen our awareness and our mindfulness, and it's an opportunity. So the more times you find yourself lost in thought and then noticing it and coming back, the more of those mental attention bicep curls you are doing in your mind. If you're feeling generous, you can even thank your mind for distracting you and pulling you away to give you that opportunity. And remembering this is the practice. While it's nice to get those lengthened moments of presence and awareness and mindfulness, sometimes they're not particularly long, and that's okay. There is no ideal level of achievement. That's why they call it practice. You are always practicing. If you're in the present moment right now, if you are dialed into your anchor of sensory awareness, bodily awareness, or breathing, see if you can maintain that. And if you want to play with this idea of keeping an eye out for the next thought that will arise, go ahead and play with that. And if it doesn't resonate for you, that's okay. Just do what you've always done. And of course, the big component to this, remembering that you can't do it wrong, is also remembering to have a kindness and a compassion and a gentleness toward yourself as you put forth this energy to practice, as you put in an effort to maintain your awareness and to rest it on your anchor, being kind to yourself when you need to bring your attention back after it's wandered. Having compassion for the challenge of what this practice entails. Noticing where the mind is in this moment. If it's wandered off, bringing it back. If it's here, seeing if you can keep it here for a bit longer. Noticing where the mind is now. And as before, if it's off elsewhere, bringing it back. And if it's here, keeping it here, resting. While there is that effort to maintain your connection to your anchor. There is that effort to keep your attention on the present moment. There's also a quality of rest and taking a break and saying no. That instead of just following your thoughts every single time, letting them run the show, taking a break from that and instead resting your awareness in this present moment, taking a break for these last few minutes from that being pulled away and just resting here, resting with your awareness on the calming breath, on the body, or on sounds. Noticing where the mind is now, and as before, bringing it back or seeing if you can hold it for these last few moments of our practice. So that is 10 minutes of efforting to try to hold your awareness in the present moment. And the flip side of that efforting being resting in the present moment and taking a break from just being yanked wherever your mind seems to want to yank you whenever it does. So thank you, of course, as always, for taking the time to do this practice. It is simple in its instruction, but certainly not easy in its execution. So thank you for putting that time in. And of course, more importantly, thank you for taking that time for yourself. Take care, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.